Welcome to the complete audiobook of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, a new translation for today's readers. Written by Aristotle, translated by Stanley J. Hansen, and narrated by Jude Wellington. Introduction. You are about to listen to one of the most important works in the history of philosophy, a book that has shaped human thought for over 2,000 years. Aristotle was a Greek philosopher who lived in the 4th century BCE. He was a student of Plato and went on to teach Alexander the Great. He wrote about many subjects, including science, politics, logic, and art. But at the heart of his work is a deep concern with human life, what it means to be human, what it means to live well, and how we can become the best version of ourselves. The Nicomachean Ethics is his most famous book on these questions. It takes its name from either his father or his son, both of whom were named Nicomachus. This work is believed to be based on lectures Aristotle gave to his students and was later organized into 10 books, or sections, that together form a complete guide to living a good life. At its core, this book is about happiness, but not just happiness in the sense of pleasure or fun. Aristotle uses the word eudaimonia, which means something deeper, flourishing, fulfillment, or living well over the course of a lifetime. He believed that everything we do is aimed at some good, and that the highest good, the goal of all our actions, is to live a life of lasting meaning and virtue. The first book of this work begins by asking what the ultimate goal of human life is. Aristotle argues that happiness, real lasting happiness, is found in living a life of virtue guided by reason. He says that happiness is not just a feeling, but a way of being. In the second book, he explains how we develop virtues through habit and practice. Just like we become skilled at a craft by doing it over and over, we become good people by making good choices again and again. He introduces the idea of the golden mean, the idea that virtue lies between two extremes. For example, courage is the balance between cowardice and recklessness. In the third book, Aristotle talks about moral responsibility. He explores what makes an action voluntary and how our choices shape who we are. He begins to discuss specific virtues like courage and self-control and how they appear in real-life situations. The fourth book continues this with a closer look at virtues like generosity, honesty, and friendliness. Aristotle shows how living well is not just about following rules, but about finding the right balance in all areas of life. In Book 5, he turns to the idea of justice, one of the most important virtues in both personal relationships and society. He explores fairness, equality, and how justice relates to law and morality. Then, in Book 6, Aristotle talks about the role of the mind. Not all virtues are about behavior. Some are about thinking clearly and wisely. He describes intellectual virtues like practical wisdom and understanding, and how they guide our moral lives. Book 7 explores self-control and the struggles we face when we know what's right but fail to do it. Aristotle asks why people sometimes act against their better judgment and examines the role of pleasure and pain in our decisions. Then come books 8 and 9, which focus entirely on friendship. For Aristotle, friendship isn't just a nice addition to life, it's essential to our happiness. He describes different kinds of friendships, from those based on usefulness or pleasure to the highest form, which is based on mutual respect and shared values. Finally, in Book 10, Aristotle returns to the topic of happiness and reflects on what kind of life is truly the best. He talks about the role of pleasure, the importance
Sample complete. Ready to continue?